Would it make you the jerk for refusing to care for a stepkid anymore after getting divorced? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for telling my best friend I understood why his fiancé is so disappointed that he proposed to her at the gym? I, 27-year-old female, was excited when my best friend, 27-year-old male, told me he had proposed to his girlfriend, 29-year-old female. He said he had the proposal on video. I was so confused when the video started out in woman's gym. When I saw his girlfriend on an exercise machine in the video, I had a bad feeling. She looked so shocked and she said yes. She only looked happy for 2 minutes, and the rest of the time she gave an insincere smile. My best friend expressed frustration that his fiancée had confessed she wasn't happy with the proposal after he asked her why she looked so sad. He was venting to me and asked me how I would feel if a guy proposed to me while I was at the gym. I guess he really expected me to agree with him, but I said that I would hate it. I said, I don't want to be proposed to when I'm sweaty and stinky at the gym. I basically explained to him that I understood why she was disappointed. My best friend called me shallow and a bad friend. Am I the jerk? So I think it's a matter of perspective, and I think there's going to be some individuality to it. That said, I would be completely on board if somebody said, oh, I would hate it if they proposed to me at the gym. Especially if it's something where like they're recording in private and they've got that moment forever. I mean, how many of us want to be on camera in what is supposed to be one of the most meaningful moments of your life? Mid-workout, you're all sweaty, you're probably panting a little bit. I feel like just about everybody is going to feel not too flattered about seeing themselves in that kind of moment. WiseMatter9248 commented, don't ask questions you aren't ready to hear the answers to. I mean, I agree with you. A gym is an odd place to propose unless there's a specific reason for it. Like, that's where you met and you love that story, or that's how you bond or whatever. He's just upset that he disappointed his fiancée and he needs to come to terms with that. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not lending my friend money even though I obviously have it? So my friend, 24-year-old female, asked me, 26-year-old male, to lend her $300 for her car repair, and I said no, and now she's pretty ticked because she knows I'm not broke right now and could technically afford it. Here's the thing, she already owes me $150 from like 6 months ago that she keeps saying she'll pay back next week and never does. Plus, she has this habit of asking for more money, but then posting pictures of herself out at expensive restaurants the same week. I'm finally in a good place financially after years of stress, and I just don't want to mess that up by being the bank for someone who doesn't seem to prioritize paying people back. She's saying that I'm being selfish and that real friends help each other out, but honestly, I feel like real friends don't put you in awkward positions about money repeatedly. Am I the jerk for protecting my own financial stability even though I could help? I feel guilty, but also like I'm being reasonable. When OP points out that they gave them $150 half a year ago that they have not yet paid back, you have the greenest flag to say no to anything. I mean, to that degree, that would even include things like, hey, could you pick me up something from McDonald's on the way home? You make sure they put a mobile order in or something from their phone. Candyland Canada commented, not the jerk. A friend does not count your pennies. A friend doesn't borrow money without repaying it. A friend doesn't call you selfish when you won't do what she wants when she wants it. Stop twisting yourself into knots about this. It's not your job to pay for her life. She can make money and spend it reasonably, same as you, yet she isn't. If you've been free with details about your financial situation, then cut that out immediately. It's only giving her fuel for the fire. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my sister either she washes her hair before my wedding or she's not going to be a bridesmaid? I'm 29-year-old female, getting married Saturday 16th of August 2025. My sister, 25-year-old female, is one of my bridesmaids. She has very long, beautiful hair. According to my sister, the last time she washed her hair was the 6th of August, and she's not planning on washing it before the 20th. She works at a job which causes her to be sweating all day. Today, her hair already smells and looks greasy. I can't imagine what would happen on my wedding day. I gave her the ultimatum, and she called me that cliche, overused term, a bridezilla. She's still welcomed at my wedding either way. Am I a bridezilla? Am I the jerk? Now, if this was like a type of hair that literally can't like support frequent rewashing or like dreads or something, maybe I could understand not washing it, but it doesn't really sound like that's the case here. Like, I'm no expert. I don't know like what kind of medical conditions could be going on, but none come to mind where you have to wait 2 weeks in between washing your hair. I definitely understand that you shouldn't realistically wash your hair every single day for the best health, but 2 weeks, especially when you sweat a lot? I don't see it. That said, I think it's a little overblown to be like, oh, they would be so disgusting looking that they can't even be the bridesmaid. Like, I guess if it's that much of a distraction where everybody's talking about, oh, how greasy her hair looks or whatever, then I guess, maybe, or if it does stink, sure. But there is something in me that feels like it's a slight stretch to be like, oh, wash your hair within these 10 days, otherwise you can't be a bridesmaid. Smiley Sarah 267 commented, I don't understand why she can't wash her hair for your wedding. She's planning on washing it 4 days after anyway. Her hair won't fall out for one time going off of her shampoo schedule. Is she usually very particular about her hair? Not the jerk. OP responded commenting, she's been complaining about how oily her skin and hair are. She said she wants to wash less to balance her body so she's less oily in the long term. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my cousin that no one likes her and that's why she doesn't have any friends? I, 26-year-old female, have a cousin, 28-year-old female. Growing up, she was my best friend. We did everything together. When I was 15, my family moved about 5 hours away, so we only saw each other a few times after that. By the time she turned 18, we had drifted a bit. When I turned 20, our relationship improved again, and we got close enough to talk every day on the phone. I even introduced her to one of my fiance's friends, and she started hanging out with our friend group. About 6 months ago, I got engaged. That's when things went downhill. She started bad-mouthing me to our mutual friends, saying I was using my fiancé for money, and even calling me horrible names. From what I was told, she was stirring up drama, lying about me, and trying to turn people against me. Around that time, her boyfriend broke up with her, and she suddenly showed up blaming me for their breakup. She even messaged my fiancé telling him to leave me and be with her. Naturally, everyone in the group cut her off. Fast forward to last week, she called me crying, saying she had no one to talk to, that she was all alone, and that I was the only person who mattered to her. I wasn't sure what to do, but after talking with my mom, I decided to at least hear her out. Things seemed okay until yesterday. She told me something that had happened with someone from the group, but she refused to tell me who. When I asked questions, she got really defensive and started yelling at me. I told her to stop shouting or I would end the call, but she just yelled louder and accused me of enjoying her suffering, so I hung up. A few hours later, she called back, calmer this time, and explained herself. I told her calmly that I don't talk to people who scream at me, that's a boundary for me. She immediately started yelling again, calling me egotistical and then saying she was the bigger person because she called me first, even though I was the one who had hurt her. That's when I snapped and said, if I wanted to actually hurt you, I would tell you that it's no wonder you're alone, no one likes you, and that's why you don't have any friends. Now she's upset, and I can't help but feel guilty. Am I the jerk? I mean, I feel like maybe it went a bit too far, that like it shouldn't have even necessarily been allowed to get to that point. If they had been such a nuisance and a bother in your life and they were spreading all this drama and BS, why even hear them out and why even like get to the point where you have to say something and kind of, if anything, stoop to their level? Realistically though, I can't really fault OP because I would be feeling some type of way myself. It's unfortunate it even had to go there. Bell Beat commented, I don't get why you still bother talking to her after everything she's done. She literally tried to steal your fiancé and ostracize you from your own friend group that you were kind enough to introduce her to. Sounds like she's struggling a lot, but sometimes you ought to put yourself first. This is one of those times, in my opinion. If you want to help her, tell your mom to speak to her parents about your worries. You don't have to directly get involved yourself. In my unprofessional opinion, your cousin sounds a lot like my acquaintance with BPD. Either way, you weren't out of line. If I were you, I'd have told her why people didn't like her. She should be able to understand that herself, but seems like she doesn't, so in her mind, you're probably the mean one now. If you had just calmly said that people avoid her due to her spreading lies, thrash-talking mutual friends, and generally creating drama, it might have opened her eyes just a little to how her behavior is putting people off. Not the jerk. This next story is, am I the jerk for letting my sister-in-law stay at a family cabin? Am I the jerk? My husband's family has a secluded cabin in the woods. His family and I don't always see eye to eye, but for the most part, we tolerate one another. My husband's sisters, Tiffany and Jennifer, frequently go out to the cabin and invite their friends. They used to invite our family, but our kids don't get along, so they stopped inviting us. Last week, my brother Alan and his wife, Marcia, took my 2 kids up to the cabin, and they stayed the week. My husband and I were there intermittently due to other family things, work, and appointments. Because of this, we had 3 vehicles at the cabin, theirs, mine, and my husband's. Alan and Marcia are dual income, no kids, that are clean, responsible, and quiet. Enjoying the peaceful lake time by reading or leisurely fishing from the dock. They entertained my kids and all 4 had a grand time. Here's the jerk part. Alan, Marcia, and I departed the cabin on Thursday to attend an event in another state as well as pick up a motorcycle for my uncle. I promise this is important to the story. My husband stayed with our kids and went home on Friday. I carpooled with Alan and in doing so, left my own car at the cabin. My husband took our kids home in his car. Tiffany and her family arrived Friday evening to spend the weekend at the cabin. On Sunday, my brother drove his motorcycle home from our other state, and Marcia and I drove to the cabin to pick up my car. After driving for over 8 hours, she was beat and uncertain about driving the 3 mountainous hours back to my house. My brother took a different, more direct route to my house because motorcycle. I had just been riding along and wasn't tired and was very much looking forward to sleeping in my own bed. I assumed Tiffany would still be at the cabin. Marcia is very self-sufficient and decided she was too tired to drive, so she would just camp in the backyard of the cabin. They are avid backpackers. When we arrived, the cabin was vacant. I found out from the neighbor, my husband's aunt, that Tiffany and family left that afternoon but would be back on Thursday. Great! Now, instead of sleeping on the ground, Marcia could just sleep in a cabin bed. Apparently, the aunt did not like this decision that I made and informed my husband's sisters. He received this text, "Why is your sister-in-law sleeping at the cabin? Why the heck not? She knows her way around, is responsible, it's not being used." Know this, I told the aunt the reason Marcia would stay at the cabin. I immediately called my husband and let him know. Tiffany and Jennifer routinely have their friends out to the cabin and have let friends stay there for a weekend. I have had friends and family from my side stay with us at the cabin, and my husband's family has frowned upon that. We're from different demographic backgrounds. We're not bad people though. Recently, Tiffany's husband was added to their family cabin group chat. I was not. Am I the jerk for offering a shared space to a trusted family member? So, for like 99% of intentions here, I don't think OP's the jerk. I'm willing to believe them on this being a very clean, self-sufficient, keeps to themselves kind of person. That said, I think it does come down to, did OP actually have the power and authorization to approve of anybody staying there? I mean, does it not come down to whoever actually owns the family cabin has the final say-so? Sufficient Traffic 32 commented, "I don't think you were necessarily the jerk, but I don't think it's right for you to make that decision either, so I get why they're annoyed. It isn't your property, and they very graciously allow your family to use the cabin. The thing is, they don't care for you. You're not their family. It doesn't matter what your husband's sisters do because they do like them and they are their family." Boo Jamas commented, "The sister-in-law had been staying at the cabin for the previous week, along with OP's family. I presume the spouse knew and approved. Plus, it's just hospitality to let OP's friends stay in a bed for one night after an 8-hour drive. Not to mention that OP plus spouse have been married long enough to have kids. OP's a part of that family as much as the aunt, probably more so. Auntie needs to mind her own business and stop stirring crap. ETA, OP's not the jerk. I don't get people sometimes. To me, my daughter-in-law is family too. Everybody's in." Our next story is, am I the jerk for ignoring my friend's work messages while I'm on maternity leave? I'm currently on maternity leave for my job as a social media manager at a small startup. When I went on leave, my friend actually took over my position. She only joined the company because of me. Since then, she's been messaging me constantly. Every other day, it's either questions about work, venting about colleagues, or sending me the content she posts so I'll like or engage with it. She messages me through both the company account, which I've muted, and her personal one. On top of that, she often asks to come over and help cooking, cleaning, walking the dog, whatever I need. It's really generous of her, but the problem is that whenever she's over, the conversation turns into work. The last time she came, she stayed for 5 hours, and 80% of what we talked about was her job. I even ended up helping her do work because she was stressed, and she straight up asked me to join a meeting with her. I feel so stuck. I don't want to hurt our friendship, and I know she's just trying her best, but this is supposed to be my maternity leave. I've already had to tell other coworkers to respect my time, and she even backed me up on that. Yet she doesn't seem to realize she's doing the same thing. So lately, I've just been ignoring the work-related messages. She doesn't seem to get the message. I'll still reply if it's something personal, but if it's about work, I don't answer. Now I'm worried I'm being rude or unsupportive since she's obviously struggling and looking for reassurance. Am I the jerk for ignoring her work messages while I'm on maternity leave? I think OP's not the jerk because it's not about being a friend or catching up with a friend or just, chatting. It's kind of a one-sided thing. It's them coming to chat with you with the expectation that you're going to give them a specific thing. Not catching up, having fun, but like a weird constant reassurance that they're doing their job right and seeking your input and approval on every little thing they do. I mean, it's cool and all, and it's great if you don't mind doing that, but I can understand not wanting to do that when you're on maternity leave. DM Me Nice Teas commented, "Not the jerk, but why not just tell her you're on work leave and don't want to talk about work off work? Even she needs a break. She's letting work take over her personality." OP responded commenting, "I've told her inadvertently as well as upfront. Like, when she asked me to join a meeting, I flat out refused, but she still continued on about work. I also feel really guilty because she's coming over to help me out, and I feel like I should return the favor." Our next story is, am I the jerk for not paying for a wedding I'm not attending? I, 30-year-old female, started a relationship with Joe, 31-year-old male, in the middle of May this year. Shortly after we started going out, he asked me to be a +1 to his friend Meg's wedding. I've never met Meg, but I agreed to go. We RSVP'd, and Joe booked plane tickets and a hotel room. A couple days ago, I ended the relationship with Joe. It's important to note that while money was not the main reason for the breakup, it was one of the things we argued about most. I am very frugal, perhaps to a fault, and Joe likes to spend money on creature comforts and trips, and often expects me to do the same. Joe lives at home rent-free, while I have my own apartment. I live pretty much paycheck to paycheck with a small stash set aside in savings. There's still about 5 weeks left to the wedding. I ended the relationship when I did, partly because I didn't want to be in the pictures from the wedding and cause people to feel bad when they looked back at those pictures. I am returning everything Joe left in my apartment, save a few things he was okay with me keeping. I also offered to pay for my plane ticket and my half of the hotel as a good faith gesture. It comes to just over $400, which is just about everything I have in savings. Today, Joe contacted me and asked if I could pay another $125 on top of all of that to offset Meg's costs for my plate and everything at the reception. He says it's so close to the wedding, and since deposits have gone to vendors, I should pay my portion. I think that more than a month's notice is ample time for Meg to either fill the seat or for Joe to find another +1 who would also be benefiting from my paying half of the hotel stay. I also think that since I wouldn't pay that money if I was attending, then I shouldn't have to pay for it now that I'm not. It's my understanding that people not going to weddings after they RSVP is just one of those costs that's inevitable, and I'm at least doing Meg the courtesy of giving over a month's notice. Am I the jerk? OP's not the jerk here. If I were OP, I wouldn't be paying that $125. I mean, I'm gonna be real, I think it's kind of crazy that if you went, you wouldn't have expected to ever touch that cost. But now that you aren't, and you gave them a month's head up that you aren't, you're now getting pressured to? No, screw that, and if anything, that just continues to affirm it's time to cut off from that entire subsection of humans. MC Susie commented, "Not the jerk. You should pay for the cost of your flight and nothing more. This fellow will still need the hotel room, and the bride and groom absolutely can remove you from the count. You dated this man for all of 12 minutes. When he decided to invite a brand new girlfriend to a wedding, he knew that he was taking a chance that it would not work out. Our next story is, would I be the jerk for refusing to wake up early so my sister can go to therapy in a different room? My twin, 22-year-old female, and I, 22 non-binary, have been living at home since graduating from college. She's been working a remote part-time job, and I just got back from an out-of-state summer job. Our house has 3 bedrooms, my parents' bedroom, the bedroom I share with my twin, and a study. She told me that on Wednesdays, she has virtual therapy in the morning at 9 a.m., which she will be doing in the study. I told her that I will likely be asleep as I'm currently job hunting, so there's no need to wake up early. I'm not a morning person. She then asked if I could wake up before her call so I can put headphones in to make sure I cannot hear her. The thing is that both rooms have doors that close and do not share any walls. As long as she isn't super loud, i.e. yelling, I wouldn't be able to hear her from our bedroom. Not to mention that I would be asleep and I can sleep through a lot. I said that I'll keep my headphones by my bed, and as soon as I wake up, I'll put them on. She still wants me to wake up early to put my headphones on during her call to make sure that I cannot hear it. My dad agrees with me, but my twin is insisting on it. I understand where she's coming from, and as soon as I'm awake, I will put on my headphones. I just don't see the need to wake up early for this. Would I be the jerk if I stayed asleep during my sister's therapy appointment in a different room? I think OP's not the jerk. I think their solution should be plentiful enough. I feel like it's generous enough as it is. Don't get me wrong, I'm assuming this is in the US, and our walls are famously made of A4 sheets of paper, but I'm assuming there's at least a decent level of sound dampening to the point where you wouldn't even really be able to make out what they're saying, unless you really went out of your way to try and focus on it. OP literally agreed, if and when I wake up, I won't listen to it, I'll put headphones on. That should be more than enough. I'd be pretty ticked off if somebody's trying to interrupt my sleep like that. WildTicket1413 commented, not the jerk. If you're asleep, you won't be listening to her conversation. And it sounds like you wouldn't be able to hear her from the bedroom even if you were awake. Your offer to put on your headphones as soon as you wake up is fair. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my pregnant sister I don't think she can physically handle being my bridesmaid on my wedding day? I'm 25-year-old female, getting married, and my sister, 31-year-old female, was supposed to be one of my bridesmaids. She's 7 months pregnant, and I don't think she can handle it. She's dripping sweat and flushed if it's a little hot, or if she does anything a little active. She gets exhausted easily. She looks uncomfortable standing or walking. I love her, and I wanted her as a bridesmaid, but I don't want to have to worry about her. I spoke to her and I told her I don't think she can physically handle being my bridesmaid. Even though she was dripping and out of breath from our little walk, she told me she can handle it. She accused me of treating her unfairly just because she's pregnant. I held firm and told her she can't be a bridesmaid. Am I the jerk? I guess I don't really have enough experience about weddings and bridesmaid duties to really be able to say whether or not OP is the jerk. I mean, if you asked me with what little I do know, I wouldn't have thought being a bridesmaid on the actual wedding day is all that intensive. I don't really understand why OP's talking about going on walks and stuff. As a bridesmaid, is there all that much walking or really any level of intensity exercise going on? Isn't it mostly just a mix of sitting down and standing in place for a while and, I don't know, maybe trying to catch the bouquet? Misunderstood Peg commented, "You're the jerk, it's your sister. How much work does it really take to be your bridesmaid? Are they required to perform manual labor for you all day? I'm sure a pregnant woman can stand through the ceremony, and if not, hey, let her sit, because again, it's your sister." Our next story is, am I the jerk for calling my husband an idiot because he keeps saying that I'm allowing my pregnancy rhinitis to ruin everything? I, 25-year-old female, am pregnant and I have pregnancy rhinitis. It feels like I have a permanent head cold. Yesterday, my husband, 27-year-old male, wanted to hang out with me. He tried to get me to play video games. I played, but I wasn't very enthusiastic. He tried to talk to me, but I was so congested. He got frustrated with me and he repeated that I'm allowing my pregnancy rhinitis to ruin everything. I called him an idiot and I told him he can only criticize my attitude when he goes through pregnancy. He called me a huge jerk. Am I the jerk? OP's not the jerk here. I mean, if you're dealing with a situation where you have a head cold, you know how it feels. It probably affects your sleep too. You're probably not very well rested. You're probably feeling burnt out, drained. I mean, I can imagine the rest of the pregnancy alone is enough to make you feel that way. You're just having kind of that day where you're coasting, and they're getting upset and livid about it, saying like, oh, you're letting it control you. No, darling, I'm just trying to make it through the day. The Chaotic Storm commented, you are not the jerk. I didn't have to deal with rhinitis, but I spent most of my first pregnancy barfing. The second, I just wanted to sleep. My husband didn't say I was ruining things, even if we had to leave places because I was too nauseated to stay. If your symptoms are really bad, discuss them with your OB/GYN. Our next story is, am I the jerk for only taking care of my kid? I was with my ex-wife Amy for 4 years. We have an 18-month-old daughter, Wynn. We got divorced last year. Amy has a 6-year-old daughter, Ella, whose dad isn't involved. During our marriage, I took on the brunt of the money stuff because she was a stay-at-home mom our whole relationship. The whole time, I treated Ella no different than I treated Wynn. I got her everything she needed, and I cared for her as a parent should. Once we split up, we split 50-50 custody of Wynn. I pay insurance as well as pay her monthly payments by choice, as I make more money than her. I want our daughter to have a comfortable life. My issue is my ex-wife is feeling some type of way because I no longer want to fund Ella's life. When I pick up Wynn, it's not a secret that we go off and do fun stuff like the zoo or whatever else we can get into. Wynn also gets new clothes and shoes. Amy feels it's not fair that I won't maintain Ella's life anymore after 4 years of doing it, that I've abandoned my daughter. I feel she's no longer my responsibility. I know Amy can't afford to give Ella the life we used to give her, but why should I have to do it? I talked to my mom about it and she thinks I'm a massive jerk as she sees Ella as her granddaughter just as much as she sees Wynn. So, am I the jerk? If so, I'll eat it and continue to help with Ella. So, to be clear, OP came into this kid's life when they were, 2 years old? And over the next 4 years, as that kid grew up from 2 to 6 years old, was a legitimate parent in that kid's life. I can tell you from my perspective, if I grew up with a parent during those years, that would have been like the most important years of my life to be a parent. If I grew up with a parent from 2 to 6 who was in my life and giving me things and being an active parent, to then just turn around, divorce my mom, and leave and be like, well, they're not my kid, they never were my kid, I couldn't imagine how devastating that would be. I would be absolutely crushed. It's honestly hard to believe that for 4 years, OP was that involved, as they say, and then could just turn around and do that to that kid. Were they just going through the motions for 4 years with this 2-year-old kid? This next story is, am I the jerk for going off on my parents for not filling up my gas tank after borrowing my car for a month? I, 25-year-old female, recently had surgery and have been recovering at home. I work remotely and get groceries delivered, so I haven't needed to drive. Around the same time, both of my parents' cars needed costly repairs they couldn't afford right away. Because I wasn't using my car, I offered to let them borrow it for a month until they could get theirs fixed. I didn't ask for any money or request they do anything. I just thought I was helping them out while they were in a tough spot. They drove it every day during that month without any issues and even picked me up and took me to doctor's appointments on a few occasions with it. Today, they brought my car back because their own cars are now repaired. Later that evening, I decided to treat myself to takeout since I haven't been out in weeks, but as soon as I put the key in the ignition, the car wouldn't start and made a loud thumping noise. I panicked a little bit because I'm not a car person and didn't know what it meant. I called my parents to ask if anything had happened while they were using it. My mom casually said, I don't know, maybe it needs gas. I asked if they had filled it before bringing it back. She said no because it's my car, so they assumed I would do it. That annoyed me. They'd had the car for a whole month, drove it regularly, and returned it empty. I thought the polite thing to do, especially when someone is doing you a favor, would be to return it with a full tank, or at least enough gas to start the engine. Instead, I got my car back in worse shape than when I'd lent it. I went off on my mom and told her I thought it was disrespectful and inconsiderate, and now both of my parents are calling me petty and saying I'm overreacting over just gas. But to me, it's about the principle and basic courtesy, not just the money. OP's definitely not the jerk. If you're going to be so generous as to lend somebody your car, they should return it with at least like a half tank of gas, if not a full tank. I mean, when you just factor in how much money they saved by not having to like get Ubers everywhere or something, that one tank of gas absolutely paid for itself. Low Attention 974 commented, "Not the jerk, let's put this into perspective. You let them borrow your car for a month. Had they rented a car, it would have been a ton of money. You did them more than a little bit of a solid, and they ran the car so low in gas, there wasn't enough to start it. Now you have to get a gas can, an Uber, or have somebody drop you off, etc. In addition, running your car that dry can screw up things badly enough to destroy sensors, etc. They easily could have damaged or decreased the life of your car's components because they're selfish and self-centered enough to do such a thing. They have two options. One, they pick you up, buy the gas tank and gas, drive you back, follow you to the gas station and fill the tank the rest of the way and pray there's no engine faults. Or two, you'll never do them favors ever again." Our next story is, "Am I the jerk for not letting my colleague borrow my charger after she's kept two of mine before? At work, I usually keep a phone charger at my desk because my battery dies quickly. In the past, a colleague has borrowed my chargers and then forgotten to return them. Twice, I've had to go to her desk and ask for them back, and both times they came back weeks later looking worn out. Yesterday, she came over again saying her phone was at 5% and asked to use my charger just for a bit. I told her I would prefer not to lend it because the last two times I didn't get mine back quickly. She rolled her eyes and said I was making a big deal over a simple charger and that I should learn to be more generous. Now a couple of people in the office think I was being petty, but I feel like I'm just setting boundaries after being taken advantage of. Am I the jerk? I think OP's not the jerk. If they want to lend it out, that's great. But what's with all this unnecessary peer pressure and these like expectations that OP should just let them borrow their phone charger? I mean, are these the kinds of people that automatically jump to labeling somebody as like a callous, cold, selfish person because they won't lend out their personal stuff? I mean, the simple thing here is if OP doesn't want to lend out their stuff, they don't have to lend out their stuff. Scarlett's Legacy commented, "Not the jerk. My charger stays with me. If you need to charge your phone, guess the phone stays with me too." Our next story is, "Am I the jerk for refusing to let my brother come over to my apartment? I, 20-year-old female, have a low-functioning autistic brother, 7-year-old male. He's nonverbal and does not use the toilet. Instead, he tries to do his business on people's chairs and couches for whatever reason. Because of this, I don't let him come over to the apartment anymore. This all happened after one day my parents dropped him off for me to babysit him. No biggie, I love my brother. Well, 2 hours in, he decided to pull down his pants and peed all over my new expensive couch. I caught him halfway through his leakage and dragged him away from the couch, sat him on the toilet, and made him sit there for a few minutes. This ended up with him having a meltdown of epic proportions, one so bad I had to call my parents. After that, I decided I would no longer allow him to come over. I've dealt with the couch peeing for months since this behavior started and would always redirect him to the toilet. Now that he ruined a piece of furniture I actually saved up for and care about, I can't keep dealing with this anymore. My parents are mad that he isn't allowed at my apartment anymore and are calling me selfish over it. Am I truly the jerk here? So once again, kind of like the phone charger, it's not like OP's responsibility to take care of their brother. Would it be nice if they could help out if there was a situation where it was amicable for both sides? Sure. But understandably, if your kid, and by extension their brother, is one that is liable to pee on their expensive furniture with no recourse and no good way to handle it, I mean, I don't think it's outlandish to say that there's going to be a clear desire to want to try to figure something else out. Preferably something that doesn't put my furniture in the crosshairs of a yellow stream of liquid. And may I just point out, I imagine it's very easy to underestimate how hard it may be to physically watch and intervene with a 7-year-old boy who is kind of dead set on doing that stuff. Flashy Habit 3030 commented, "Not the jerk. Your parents should be ashamed of themselves for allowing your brother to ruin your furniture. I say allow because your brother probably hasn't learned to use the toilet because your parents haven't had the patience to teach him. Your brother should be in a program where he's taught basic skills. Will your parents continually allow this behavior when your brother's 20? Also, your parents owe you a replacement sofa. You cannot use the one you have because urine seeps into fabric and there will always be a faint smell even if you've cleaned it. Your parents are 100% to blame for your brother's behavior. Autistic or not, your brother has the ability to learn if he's taught. The older your brother gets, the harder it will be to teach him. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not treating my step-siblings the same as my actual siblings? So I have two younger siblings who are 15 and 13. Our mom died when they were little and my dad remarried pretty quickly. I've always been more like an uncle than a brother because of the age gap, but I love them to bits. While in uni, me and a couple of friends started a startup which we sold for a considerable sum. Even though I could have retired then and there, I accepted being kept in as a consultant for a healthy salary. This has allowed me to set up a savings account for my siblings, where over time, it's been building up to quite considerable sums. It felt like I needed to do this, considering how bad my dad was with money. There was no rules on what they could do with the money, only that it could be withdrawn at 18. They could use it for a car, trips, uni, or whatever, I didn't mind, as long as it was spent on them. It's been quite cute and interesting watching them growing up, and the things they wanted to do with the money changed from castles and horses to exploring the world and weddings. But when they last came to visit, it seemed to pivot hard. They started talking about how both their savings will be used on family holidays and housing remodeling, and this really upset me. The next time I visited, I confronted my dad and stepmom, and they explained how it was unfair how I treated my siblings better than my step-siblings and half-sibling, saying that despite all that they have done for me, that I won't ever help them financially. They said I was selfish, and this was clearly what my siblings wanted because they were unselfish like me, when I feel it's quite clear that they put this idea in their head. They continued on about how whenever I do something at my home, I only invite them. My girlfriend only really ever talks to them, and that I've essentially shut my step-siblings out of my life. This whole situation has me incredibly confused because at this point, I do feel a bit guilty for not supporting my step-siblings the same as I did with my actual siblings, despite not really being ever close with them. Edit, please stop giving me terrible financial advice. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm gonna say OP isn't the jerk. For better or worse, a lot of times when you have a step-sibling come into your life, you just don't latch on to them, you don't have the same relationship. I mean, almost in the same way where if it was your biological sibling and you didn't have the best relationship with them, you wouldn't be treating them the same as one you did, would you? It's just how it worked out. OP can't go back and redo things. And I know OP didn't ask for financial advice, but if it were me, I would kind of change things around and have the kids individually come to me and ask and explain what they want the money for. If it were me, I would say, I'm sorry, but a house remodel is not spending the money on you. Maybe in 25, 30 years, maybe it comes back to somehow being yours, but not now. Individual Metal 983 commented, "What you did was completely natural. But your siblings are being manipulated. That is selfish and another example of your father being bad with, on this occasion, their money. Can you change the accounts so that they receive it as 21? Edit, not the jerk." Our next story is, am I the jerk for asking my roommates to wait before they shower? I, 21-year-old female, moved away from my family 3 years ago to study, and since then, I've been living in a flat that my parents own. The flat has 3 bedrooms, so I decided to get roommates so that it wasn't as expensive, and also to have some company, which I find better than living alone. I've had the same roommates for the past 3 years, and we very quickly became best friends, but they both left to go study abroad. I looked for new roommates and found these 2 girls that I'll call Mary and Haley. They both moved in about a month ago. We got to know each other and I became good friends with Haley, but not as much with Mary because she's much more reserved, so she tends to stay in her room. I have 3 rules for the flat. No loud noises after 11 p.m. on weekdays because we all have school or work. If one of us is not sleeping at home, she tells the others so that we don't worry. And when someone is showering, you have to wait for the end of their shower before you can take one. That's because the plumbing in the flat is old and doesn't work super well. So when 2 people shower at the same time, the person that was showering first gets cold water. And then, obviously, keep the place clean, but that doesn't really have to be said. I've had these rules with my previous roommates, and everything went well. Mary doesn't really respect the shower rule. Normally what we do is scream, "shower," before getting in, and then we scream, over when we're done. But there were a few times when Mary went into the shower before the other person was done. I completely understand that she wasn't really used to the rule as much as I was, so it probably wasn't intentional. And it was really hot, so taking a cold shower wasn't a problem, so I casually reminded her, but I didn't really say anything. Yesterday, I was coming home from work a bit late and it was raining really hard, so when I got home, I went straight to the shower. I really wanted a nice hot shower because I was really cold and tired, but not even 2 minutes after I got in the shower, the water turned cold. I had shampoo in my hair, so it wasn't ideal. I got out to see why it was cold, and I heard another shower running. It was Mary. I had to wait until she was done to go back in the shower and finally have hot water. Today, I sort of confronted her about it and told her that it was kind of annoying and that it would really be better if she followed the rule. She told me that I was controlling and was trying to monitor when they showered and everything they did. I asked Haley if she felt the same way, and she said no, and also doesn't feel like I try to control anything or like the rules I have are unreasonable. Mary left right after the argument and hasn't been responding to our texts. I really want to fix it, but I'm also not sure if I'm in the wrong or not. Sorry if this isn't clear, English isn't my first language and the characters are limited, so if you need clarification, I'll answer in the comments. Edit/update, Mary came home a while ago and we sat down to talk about the whole thing. She really apologized and listened, and it was honestly great. She told me many things. The first one was that she was in a very bad mood yesterday and this morning for personal reasons, and she apologized for that. She said that she would try to really be a better roommate from now on. We also talked about the rules and what we thought was appropriate with Haley, and now have a whole system. And lastly, she told me that she was feeling a bit excluded because Haley and I get along really well, while she's less social and has been struggling a bit more, so we've really talked and tried to get to know each other. In other words, all's well that ends well, thankfully, and I think I might even have gotten a new friend because of this whole thing. I'd also like to thank everyone who was nice and gave constructive advice. You know, I'm really glad it worked well for OP in the end. I don't know if I'm just like the worst person to go to for advice in this situation, but I would have immediately gone down the nuclear, wait for them to get in the shower, and show them what it's all about. Maybe do it 2 or 3 times in a row so they really get the cold idea. Or, you know, hash it out. That works too. Oyster Meat commented, clearly the answer is to take a shower while she's already in there and let her figure it out why it's not a great idea. Not the jerk. Our next story is, am I the jerk for using professional language on an email I sent on behalf of my husband? My 30-year-old female, husband 43-year-old male accepted a new job, and as part of that job, he needed to sign a consent form to send to his new employer so they could complete some type of background check or related thing. He tried to send this email a few times and it would not go through. He asked me if I would send it and I said I would, so I drafted the following pasted email. Attached here too, please find the executed consent form for my husband. Thank you, my name. I CC'd my husband on the email because he asked me to. 30 minutes go by and I get a text from him. OMG, what kind of overkill email was that, facepalm? This was yesterday, so today I'm at work and I get another series of texts from him where he says essentially that he is completely embarrassed by me, that my email was inappropriate to send to his new employer. He said that he wants to retire from his job and my language was some kind of Tom Clancy book out of colonial times. He said I overcomplicated it tenfold and this is why he never asks me for help. He said every time I'm involved, I try to sabotage him and he regrets it. Update, when he asked me to send the PDF, we were on the phone and I read to him what I was typing and asked if it sounded okay and he said yes. Update, I work in the legal field, so this is professional for what I do for a living. He claims I'm the jerk for how I sent the email. Am I the jerk for the language I used in my email? So, I will be honest, I feel like I have a general decent sense for like what is professional or like what kind of works or is acceptable in an email. What OP wrote definitely sounds very overkill and like painfully professional. I mean, when I look at it, I hear in my brain, attached here too, please find the executed consent form for my husband. Like, it's just far enough on the scale that somebody would read it and go, great, thanks for sending that over. XX Warheart XX commented, Not the jerk, the email was awkward. I'm a lawyer and I still use plain English. Please find the attached consent form signed by my husband. Would have sufficed. But holy freak, did your husband overreact. No one who saw it cares. They just want the form on file. Your husband sounds like he has anxiety and thinks people focus on him more than they probably do. Your husband is the jerk in this story. What the heck is this "I want a divorce" crap? How terrible. I would never say this to my wife unless I want a divorce. There's no real taking that back. If that's how he treats you, your email is the least of his problems. Our next story is, am I the jerk for yelling at my mom after she let my grandma cut up my favorite shirt? Earlier today, I was in the living room when I noticed my grandma cutting up a t-shirt. When I looked closer, I realized it wasn't just any shirt, it was my shirt. This wasn't some random old shirt. I've had it for 10 years, and it was the very first shirt I ever bought with my own money. It wasn't expensive, but the front design has a lot of sentimental value to me, which is why I've kept it all these years. For context, the shirt doesn't fit me anymore and it's obviously old. I could afford to buy thousands of new shirts if I wanted to, but that wasn't the point. This one was important to me. When I realized what was happening, I freaked out and called for my mom. I was really upset and ended up yelling at her for giving my shirt to my grandma to cut up. My mom brushed me off and said it was just an old shirt, that I was exaggerating and ungrateful, and that she could buy me 100 more. She told me I was making too big of a deal out of it. To me, it wasn't just a shirt. It was special, and now it's destroyed. I got so upset that I locked myself in my room and cried. Later, my mom called my dad to complain about me, and then my dad called me to hear my side. From what he told me, he had already gotten mad at my mom and grandma when she first explained it. Apparently, he asked my mom if the shirt had any sort of design on the front. When she admitted that it did, my dad reminded her that both he and she know about my hobbies and interests, and they know I place value on things like that. He also told her that it was my property, not something she had the right to make decisions about. For additional context, I'm currently in my parents' home country on vacation to see family. I only came because my parents wanted me here for my cousin's wedding. Otherwise, I would either be in Asia right now with friends for a graduation trip or in Europe where I study and live. My dad apparently even pointed out to my mom that if I didn't have some attachment to the shirt, I wouldn't have gone out of my way to bring it across borders in the first place. After I explained my side to him, he agreed with me completely and said my mom and grandma were in the wrong. He also told me that he's going to make my mom take the shirt to a clothing repair shop to see if it can be fixed. My mom, however, still insists I overreacted and embarrassed her in front of my grandma. But I feel like I had every right to be upset since it was my shirt and nobody asked me. Could I have handled it better? So, am I the jerk for yelling at my mom when I saw my grandma cutting up my sentimental shirt? OP's 1,000,000% not the jerk, and major kudos to the dad for saying what they did. Most importantly, that it was OP's property and the mom had no right to dictate anything about it. Who cares if it's an old shirt, if it's worn, if they can buy hundreds of more for them? OP brought it with them on vacation. Clearly, that is not something they wanted chopped up and hacked up for grandma's arts and crafts. I'm almost kind of curious why grandma's input wasn't added here because I'd like to know what grandma thought of the whole thing. LiveKindly01 commented, "Not the jerk. Your dad gets it, and it's funny, but sometimes when people are presented with what they did wrong in the moment, their only reaction is defensive. This is what your mom did. She was so focused apparently on how embarrassed she felt that she tried to minimize your feelings and say you overreacted, not that she did anything wrong. You're not the jerk. Could you have handled it better? I mean, I'm not a fan of yelling, but in the moment, when you realize something precious of yours is destroyed, then yeah, yelling kind of happens." Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my mom I won't go on the Christmas gift trip if my siblings have to cover my flight? I, 20-year-old female, am one of 5 siblings, ages 16 to 27. Last Christmas, my parents told us our gift would be a family trip to Universal Studios this coming Christmas. My mom bought the hotel and park tickets and asked if we wanted to go, saying we would all fly. Of course, I said yes. I was excited, and I thought it would be a fun trip. For some background, my parents are extremely wealthy doctors who own their own business. None of us kids are financially comfortable. I'm a broke college student who recently took a year off after leaving an abusive relationship and struggling with depression. During that time, I had no job or income. I'm starting school again this fall and looking for work, but I currently have very low funds. My siblings aren't better off. My youngest brother is 16, my sisters 21 and 24, both work minimum wage and already struggle. On top of that, my mom charges anyone over 18 $600 a month in rent to live in our very large family house. The only sibling doing okay is my 27-year-old brother who works for my parents. Flash forward to now, August, a few months before the trip, and the terms suddenly changed. My dad chickened out of flying because of his severe anxiety and wants to drive instead. 16 hours versus a 2-hour flight. My mom and I both get motion sickness, but for me, it's extreme. I panic about getting sick in cars, so a 16-hour drive is my nightmare. Because my dad won't fly, my mom announced, "You kids need to pay for your own flights now. For the two youngest who don't have any money, the rest of you can pitch in to buy their tickets, or they'll have to drive in their own cars." This is a test of sibling loyalty. I felt awful because I don't want my siblings who are already broke to pay for me. I told my mom I want to come, but I probably won't go if it meant they had to cover my ticket. She snapped and called me ungrateful for not wanting to go on a trip she's spending so much money on, saying if I don't go, I'm throwing her generosity back in her face. So now I feel stuck. If I go, my siblings may be pressured into paying for me. If I don't, I'll be labeled ungrateful for wasting her money, and my little brother won't have a ride, or my siblings will have to pay for him. If I drive, I'll have panic attacks and be sick and miserable, which I definitely don't want. Am I the jerk for telling my mom I probably won't go if it means my siblings have to pay for me? Edit, just to clarify a bit, my dad wants my mom to go with him in the car, so since she isn't flying now and is very ticked about it, that's why we all have to pay. She said there's only room for two, so that's why my brother wouldn't have a ride if I didn't drive him. Update, kinda. I spoke with my siblings about everything and they said they would do whatever they had to so I could come because they really wanted me there for Christmas. I still insisted that I didn't want them to pay. I had a talk with my grandparents about the situation. I often go to them to vent about these kinds of issues with my family. They aren't huge fans of my parents and how they handle things. They take me on a lot of trips, especially recently we went on a huge trip together to Alaska, and they said they made an account for me and put all of the miles on there for me to use in the future, so hopefully I might have enough miles to pay for a flight there and back. I really don't want to let my siblings down and I'm very close with them. They said they would rather split the money to have me there than have me not come at all. Still thinking about it, but thank you to everyone for the suggestions. And as for the comments about the toxic environment, I am aware it is borderline emotionally abusive and am spending the next couple of years to save up so I can move out. Same with my siblings. That's why it's so hard to ask for money from them because I know we're all reaching towards the same goal of saving up to move out. I'll update on the situation if anything else happens. Thanks for the support. So there is part of me that understands the parents' perspective here. Even if you're wealthy and well off, you don't want to hand your kids everything. You want them to kind of like still have that drive and that motivation to work for what they've got. But I just can't understand as a parent charging your kids $600 a month when they're just trying to save up enough to get out of the house. Like on a personal level, if I saw my kids are putting in enough of an effort to try to like improve themselves and have a life of their own, I'd probably hold back on the whole charging rent thing unless it's like warranted because of how much they use. That said, the mom is absolutely ridiculous here for saying, all of you siblings have to pay for your other siblings. Stop being petty to your own children and cover the cost as a Christmas gift so you can have all of your family there. Diminishing Patience commented, "Not the jerk, this isn't a gift, it's a carefully crafted piece of abuse. In a few years' time, your parents will be posting on here complaining about the fact that none of their children speak to them." Our next story is, would I be the jerk? My fiance's best man threatened to leave the wedding party because my fiance and I moved in together. So my fiance, 22-year-old male, we'll call him Harry, and I, 23-year-old female, grew up most of our lives in very conservative Christian circles with very traditional views and rules. My fiance's best man, 22-year-old male, we'll call him Grant, also grew up like this. As Harry and I have gotten older, we've drifted away from following the traditions we were raised in. Grant still strongly believes in traditional values and will straight up tell you you are wrong if you don't agree with said values. We're 1 month away from our wedding, and I've moved in with my fiance for 1 month total already. I've moved in due to my previous living situation being a toxic environment that I needed to get away from, and it didn't make sense to move anywhere else when the wedding was so close and Harry was already living and paying rent in our soon-to-be shared apartment. The only reason we weren't living together our entire engagement is because we wanted to keep peace with our very conservative parents, who would view us living together as a straight-up sin against God, and are also the people paying for the wedding and would pull the funding if they found out. Yes, if I could go back, I wouldn't let them pay for it and have that power over us. But too late for that now. The other important detail here is that our apartment is literally across the parking lot to Grant and his wife's apartment in the same apartment complex. Yes, we did this on purpose because up until this point, Grant and his wife have been super chill about our difference in values and best friend of ours. However, not long after I moved in, Grant obviously saw my car in the apartment parking lot and realized we were living together. He had a talk with Harry and straight up told him it's wrong for us to live together and that Harry needs to move out into separate housing until the wedding. We clearly don't agree with him and have no desire to move our things, life, and routine again for the whopping month that is left before our wedding just to appease his wishes. When Harry told Grant that we don't agree with his moral convictions and have no plan of moving into separate housing, Grant said that he might not be able to be Harry's best man if he doesn't change his mind and move. To Grant, standing up at someone's wedding is a statement that he supports everything we are and we do as a couple. He said he couldn't in good conscience stand up at our wedding knowing he doesn't agree with the choices we've made, and the fact that we had to lie to my parents to live together and get me out of my previous situation. Despite this disagreement, Harry still really wants Grant to be his best man and to be a part of our special day. What should we do? Should Harry move out just so that Grant will for sure be in the wedding? Should Harry and I say Harry's not moving and possibly risk Grant stepping down? Would we be the jerks if we just found a way to lie to Grant so he gets off our case? So I don't think OP's the jerk. Obviously, if you have different values, you might feel very strongly differently about that. I think it's great that they want Grant to be in the wedding party, but if anything, I would say OP shouldn't lie about it. They should just accept it, and they should just start planning a contingency plan for if Grant inevitably backs out. One tired person commented, "Not the jerk," and instead of letting Grant decide whether he can allow this behavior, I would remove him from the wedding party and let him know that his threats are unkind, unnecessary, and unwelcome. Our next story is, am I the jerk for entering my coworker's office after he told me not to? I've been working in this office for 3 months, but because of space shortages, I currently share it with a coworker who just started last week. Even though he's new, he's technically my supervisor. Today, I was told I could leave early because I'd finished all of my work. I stepped out for about 5 minutes to see if anyone else needed help, but nobody did. When I came back, there was a "Please do not disturb" sign on the door. Usually that means there's a meeting or a conversation going on and they can last close to an hour. The problem was my bag with my wallet, water, and food was still in there. I didn't want to wait almost an hour to get it, so I asked another coworker for advice. She suggested knocking. I waited another 5 minutes and then knocked. He said, "Not right now." I knocked again to show I wasn't there for chit-chat, but because I actually needed something, still, "Not right now." So I opened the door just enough to explain that I needed to grab my bag. It was literally one step inside. He immediately snapped, "I told you no," in a raised voice and basically kicked me back out. I shut the door and left, but I was so shaken I ended up crying in the bathroom. When his meeting was finally over, I went back in to collect my things. I was still upset, and he told me I had no right to be ticked. I said I only wanted my bag and that I have the right to access my own belongings. I suggested that if he's planning a meeting in our shared office, he could at least let me know so I can grab my stuff beforehand. He said he doesn't see it that way and doesn't need to tell me anything, and he kept pushing the point. At that point, I was trying not to cry again, so I told him it's harder for me because I'm autistic. The second I said that, his tone changed. He softened and said he didn't know and now it was fine. But it really bothered me that I had to disclose something so personal just to get basic understanding. Now I'm worried this could hurt my reputation. He's well liked, and I'm scared it'll get spun as me causing drama, especially since I've been socially excluded before because of my autism. Until now, this was the first workplace where I felt genuinely safe and included, and I'd even considered staying long term. Now, I'm not so sure. So, am I the jerk for going in after he told me not to? I think OP's not the jerk. Like, I'm sorry, but if your meeting is going to take an hour plus and it's a shared office, you have every right to pop in there for 1 second, say, sorry for interrupting, just want to grab my bag real quick, and then get the heck out of there before they can even berate you. They have no right to put their hands on you or kick you back out of the office. You're grabbing your bag. I know this guy is OP supervisor or whatnot, but it would be crazy if they fired OP over something like that. And honestly, I would go straight to HR and try to counter something like that if there is an HR. I feel like there's some real legitimate complaints that are able to be offered here. Awesome Mom commented, not the jerk, but he is one. Talk to HR because autistic or not, it's a shared space. I would have walked in despite the sign and quietly gathered my things. Are you hourly? If he locked you out and you can't leave, then he has to pay for that time you were detained by his holier-than-thou attitude. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.